It's arrived, it's here, it's in my hands, it's getting read. Ooh, so excited, so excited. So this just arrived in the post. Yay! I've just unwrapped it. I've just made a wee reel for my Instagram because I'm not obviously uploading the video. It's going to be up on Saturday. So it's in my hands. I can't not read it, even though I'm supposed to be reading several other things. And I'm supposed to be doing a bit of computing stuff today as well. And I need to go to the shops to get vegetables because I literally have nothing in the house. And all I want to do is sit and read this. What's a girl to do? I'm going to read it. So I'll take you along for the ride. Obviously, I love it. It looks great. I'm like, oh, an actual real book of it rather than just reading on my Kindle, which is what I've been doing for a lot of things for KU. You got part 1. And I do like this. It's very like the underground in London. I've read from the NetGalley up to chapter 5. So up to this point, chapter 6. But I'm going to reread this section here just because it's fun and I remember what happened in it, but I'm going to reread it. So I'm fully engaged. So I've got 50 pages. They gave us 49 pages as a wee free taster, and it was a very nice little taster. This has some lovely artwork in the different sections when I flick through, and all of the different, part 4. Oh, I don't want to spoil anything, but I kind of want to feel like it's a spoiler, so this might be a spoiler review. I might just have to do a spoiler review of this book and then just publish it on Patreon, so only Patreon people can see it. I love this so much. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So we've got 416 pages and then a Q&A at the end, and then acknowledgements about the author. But it does look lovely. I'm reading this at the back, and and it feels good. It feels nice. It feels, like a little bit like suede. That's what it feels like. It feels like suede. It's nice. So yeah, I'm gonna give this a wee read. I'll catch you back up in, I don't know, 50, 100 pages. I'll check in. I should really get my little tabs and then tab them and then check in every 50 to 100 pages. That's a good idea. I'll do that. So I have tagged the 50-page mark in orange and the 100-page mark in blue, and I've got some greens left over here for if I come across a page or a quote that I'm just like, that's awesome. I need to remember that. So we'll check in. I'll see how I am at the 50 page and then we'll do some check-ins. So let's get this started. What's going to happen to my day? Nothing. This book is getting read. Damn it. So I made it to chapter 6. So this is a 50-page mark. So we're on page 51. And up to this point I have read, so this is all reread, but I had a fabulous idea. I have credits on Audible, so I was just like, just get the Audible version too, which I could have gotten literally the day it came out, but then I would have had to just listen to it instead of reading it. And the whole point was to buy the book, so I didn't get the Audible version, but then it was just like, I want to sit and listen and read at the same time, just be completely cocooned in the story. So what's going down, if you haven't read this already? We've got to the point where Bridget has discovered a photograph of Tom and suspects that he's cheating. So Luke had to bail on his date with Oliver and go and hang out with her, which sounds like a great time actually, considering, except obviously she's utterly depressed and they're just watching chick flicks. chick flick movies and eating junk food, which is great. It sounds like a great great time. It's just funny. It's nice to be back in and all the different characters, especially. But obviously we've had Miles, who was his awful ex who sold the story to the paper, and him deciding, or not quite deciding yet, if he wants to go to the wedding. Why? I would never. I'd be like, no, F you, 2 fingers up, out the door. I'm not having that. There have just been a couple of really good moments. So from here on, chapter 6, it's kind of like new stuff that I don't know about. So I'm going to be listening to the Audible book at the same time as reading. It's almost 5 though, I think. And I am feeling a bit peckish, so I might read for another like hour and then go to the shops and get some food, because I literally have nothing in the house. I mean, I say that, literally nothing in my fridge. It's bare. There's like half a block of cheese and that's it. I don't even have any bread or anything. Which I'm not going to be trying to eat anyway. So yeah, we'll have to go to the shops at some point to get some food. But I want to do this for maybe another hour. And so, yeah, I'll let you know. So it is nearing 6, I think. I'm at page 87. So I'm going to go to the shops and get some food, because I literally have nothing to eat. I'm starving. Well, I'm peckish. I do have a green one, just because this is when his mum comes back into the story, and I love Luke's mum. She's so funny. But as soon as she started talking about RuPaul's Drag Race, I was like, yes. But then also she did this this thing. Judy and I were thinking we may have to break up with the Drag Race. There is just too much of it these days. It is like when you buy something on the internet and then the internet, it thinks to itself, well, she bought this thing, she must like this thing, so I will show her adverts for this exact same thing that she just bought from now until the day she dies. I just cackled, because that's pretty much what cookies are like, and that's just what happens. And then she went on and on about it, and how the fact that she disagrees with Oliver and that Bimini was robbed. And this is the exact conversation that I have had with my mother. This exact conversation. The whole Loris Cheney Bimini thing. This is exactly what we have had as a conversation. And then everything that she goes on about for the rest of Drag Race, I'm like, yep, this is the same conversation I've had with my mother. So yeah, I'm gonna go and get some food. I don't know what I'm gonna get. We'll see what there is, but I'm hoping that there's gonna be vegetables or salad or something. I'm gonna put this in just so I know where I am. But I am probably gonna listen to the audiobook while I'm out, have my wee walk. I'm enjoying it. It's great. It's great to be back in the little London Calling universe and all of the wacky friends and stuff. It's a good time. I'm having a good time. So I got back from the shops. I just finished a wee sandwich and I've got some prawn crackers to snack on, because I was feeling like something, but I didn't really want to have potato. So the rice crackers are just there, and I was like, perfect. I also got some like pretzel sticks, which I'm looking forward to later on. Anyway, I've got a couple more green stickers, because while I was walking, I was literally just coming home. I was like rounding the corner, and it was at Bridget's wedding, because this is definitely turning out to be like, I'm guessing like 4 weddings and a funeral, because there's going to be different parts to it. So I'm thinking it might be 4 weddings and a funeral, but for Luke and Oliver, which 100% here for, because 4 weddings and a funeral is like the best rom-com, you know, wedding story. It's just perfect. All these other ones like Bridesmaids and stuff, it has elements to it that have come from 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Anyway, just like 4 Weddings and a Funeral, there's bits that are laugh out loud, and then there's bits that actually just grab you by the heart and squeeze. And after he's made just an absolutely appalling bridesmaids or maid of honor speech, he's feeling really bad about it, and then he turns and Bridget's giving him heart hands. I just was like, oh, I got a wee bit teary-eyed. But then the next bit, when he's now later on, he's talking to Alex, who he works with, who's what does he say? The worst thing, the worst example of the aristocracy in the UK. When he's talking to him about marriages and stuff, so Alex is engaged, and then he's saying, "You should get that scene too, old boy. I'll get right onto it, right after I get my seat in the Lords. I wouldn't bother, it's all political now." I just had to just stop and laugh out loud. I paused listening to it as well. I was just like, no, that deserves a really big laugh. Because it's the kind of thing that Alex would say, but also it's the House of Lords, so it's supposed to be political. It's like the seat of government. Oh, I wouldn't bother. It's all political now. Like, before it wasn't, which kind of also is very true in the state of affairs. I just love these little witticisms. They are quite the truths. They're basically truths presented to you like wrapped up in chocolate and sprinkled with nuts. You know, something that you're thinking, oh, this is delicious, but actually when you bite into it, it's a truth. And so it's a surprise, and I am enjoying it. Where am I though? I think I am a couple of... They're at the wedding of his dickhead ex, Miles, and Jojo, and I think they're about to get into an argument because it's all very gay. It's all very gay, which of course Luke is like cool. That's who he is. But Oliver has always been a little bit standoffish to that. It just feels so real. It's so real to be back with them. So yeah, I think I am at the like halfway mark. Am I at this point yet? I'll check in with you in a bit when I've got to the next stopping point. Okay, so I have managed to get to page 150, which was just a few pages along. And I had to put in another green thing anyway. It was interesting. So one of the people who were officiating at Miles and Jojo's wedding was obviously Luke's friend, so he knew. And so it turns out that a lot of the people at this wedding are people who were classed as Luke's friends from back in the day, because when it turned out that Miles did that awful thing by selling his story and making all that money for basically betraying Luke in that way, he kind of exploded their whole friendship group. And so it was kind of interesting to hear that, because we hadn't really got that side of it, like what had happened. And it turned out like all the people that we all know as Luke's friends, they sided very much with Luke, and everyone else sided with Miles, and that was it. It was like a split. And it's been like 7 years or something, and they just had never got back together again. So someone who he had once considered a friend had decided to be on Miles' side. And yeah, it was just interesting to see that that's something that had happened. But the green sticker was for something else. It's basically like, this is page 149, but it's kind of like, anyway, he asks Oliver to think of, this is it, this is the line that I loved. He's saying how much they're talking about gayness and it being expressed in their life in different ways. And basically he says, fine, you're a better gay than me. And then he says, it's not a competition, Lucian. But yes, I am. And I just thought that was really funny. Like, made me laugh out loud. But then Luke asks Oliver to think of 5 reasons Why? Because obviously he's like, no, you're better at most things than me. So he's like, all right, tell me 5 things that I am better at than you, because he's obviously got a lot of self-esteem issues. But Oliver being Oliver and not being Bridget, Oliver then proceeds to list things that he considers to be things that Luke does better than him. And it kind of feels like vows. It's kind of like if you'd written your own vows, this is what it would be nice. It would be a nice thing. You do this better than me. You're this better than me. You're this better than me. That kind of thing. And it's just lovely. It was dead sweet. It was just a list of really funny, lovely things. Like, you can eat a dessert without feeling unnecessarily guilty about it. And that's just like something you know about someone, but also as a reflection of yourself as well. When he asks for 2 more, he's like, you're slightly taller and more annoying. And I just thought, dead cute. So yeah, I'm at the 150 page mark. They're still at this second wedding of Miles and Jojo. It is about 8 o'clock now in the evening, so starting, the nights are fair drawn in, so they're starting to get a little bit darker than it has been in the last couple of months. So it feels like it's like that kind of space between summer and autumn, and I really like it because it means that we might get slightly colder days, but not uncomfortably so. Maybe just more moist, which is a terrible word. I hate that word. Moist. Blah, blah, blah. But I do have a cakey snowball to eat as a snack, but I probably will have that, shall we say, around the 200 page mark? Let's go for 200 page. So we'll be aiming for this next blue one. I'm enjoying actually having all these wee sticky things, but I'm running out. I don't have very many. So I've got my big pad of pink ones, but I do have loads and loads of sticky labels, but I just don't know where on earth I put them. You know when you got too much stationery and they've spread out in different places? I might have a rummage around in some drawers to try and see if I can find some, because I'm pretty sure I've got some elsewhere. But yeah, I'm going to check in again at the 200 page mark. So I got to page 182, so I've got another 20 pages before I'll stop and have a wee snowball snack. But this line here just made me go, hold on, whose book am I reading? Because Oliver said, my refusal to drink milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. And I have noticed when reading Lily Morton, almost every single book she writes, she uses the phrase, brings all the boys to the yard. And it's sometimes about milkshake and it's sometimes about other things. It's, like, oh, the such and such brings all the boys to the yard. It's like, it's her thing. And she has it in all of her books. And I'm pretty sure she knows. And I think it's a running joke. Like, probably a running joke between her and her authory friends. Because they're all like, oh, where are you gonna slip that in? In which conversation? Honestly, if you checked all of her books, if you just type in yard, you will find that she has it in almost all of her books. So when I came across this in this book, it's like, oh, is this an in-joke? Are they all doing it? Are all male romance authors just kind of getting together and be like, this is the phrase du jour, we need it in every book? But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I just love Luke's mum. She's so funny. So they're finally telling her about the engagement. Oh yeah, they're engaged. They're engaged now. And Luke got a ring for him, and it sounded like a lovely ring. And oh, poor Oliver, he's not getting on with his parents, so they're going to go see Luke's mum and get all of the joyous parental givings of the celebration that is their engagement. So yeah, I love the fact that that Judy and Luke's mum are just like such good pals that they thought about getting married. Just for fun. Yeah. So yeah, another 20 pages and then I'll stop for tea and cake, I think. So I made it to page 200 and They just literally just dropped the bombshell of maybe all of Luke's workmates are not going to be invited to the wedding. And it's quite funny because it's like, well, that is one of those things, isn't it? Like, who do you invite and who do you want at your wedding? And we've got um, one more thing to add, and I have to put this here because where did it? There was two things actually. One that made me laugh out loud was them all in the car or in the van driving to Alex's wedding. So all of his Luke's workmates are all together with their significant others in a hired minibus, and they're all gonna go stay in a friend of Reese's in a house in the countryside in the middle of nowhere before the wedding, which is the next day. And they're all like trying to actually agree on what to talk about while they're in the van. Anyway, they talk about nursery rhymes and how in America they say all through the town at the end of the Wheels on the Bus song instead of saying all day long. And that the only thing they could all agree on was how having all through the town in the Wheels of the Bus song was absolute fucking blasphemy. I just thought that was hilarious because it's the kind of British thing that people do. like you could have, a whole mishmash of people and we'd all be from different parts of the country and you get us all together and we'd bicker and argue about everything, but as soon as you said something that was American, we'd all be like, oh, fucking Americans. We'd all agree to be anti the other person. But that just made me laugh a lot because also all through the town, no, it's all day long. Anyway, the other reason with this yellow stickers there, because I'm running out of the wee stickers, is the fact that Reese's date for this wedding is called Anna with one N. And she's obviously on like OnlyFans. They haven't mentioned it yet, OnlyFans, although they did mention it in the first book. Anyway, or maybe they mentioned it at the start of this book. Sorry, they mentioned it at the start of this book. So, she's obviously on OnlyFans, and Barbara, the other lady in the office, is asking her, don't you find that rather degrading? Now, this whole rant of Anna's, I absolutely fucking love. So she says, sort of. So don't you find, taking your clothes off on OnlyFans degrading? Because she said she used to be, where was it? Oh yeah, they asked why she knew about the difference in nursery rhymes, and Anna said that she used to be a primary school teacher, and then that's when Barbara was like, why? She says, oh, I take my clothes off on the internet now. And she says, don't you find that rather degrading? And Anna said, sort of. I mean, when you think about it, there's something pretty degrading about the fact that I went to university, did 2 degrees and a professional qualification, spent 3 years working 70-hour weeks with disadvantaged children, and at the end had nothing to show for it but crushing debts and a few nice thank you cards. So I decided that if the choice was getting wanked over by strangers or fucked over by the Department for Education, I'd pick the one that paid better. And it was like, good for you, yes! And all I could see in my mind was Meryl Streep standing up and clapping and pointing and going, yes, yes! And it was very much good for you, girl kind of vibes. That is the epitome of what it is to be, how many degrees do I have? How many professional qualifications do I have? And yeah, working 70 plus hour weeks for, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. And so many people don't. The percentage of people who do teacher training in the UK or in Scotland anyway, that I think it's around 60 or 70% have left within 5 years. 60 or 70% of the people who train to be teachers in this country have left the profession. They don't even stick around more than 5 years. And I thought, I'm going to be one of them. And then I was like, no, I mean, I've been in education for ages. I've been a teacher for ages. Surely I'll no. And I was one of them. I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't. And when I see how much it takes of the life of the people I still know, I'm like, yes, maybe OnlyFans is the way. But just like the other, the TikTok craze that people are going around. Too old for a sugar daddy. Don't have the body to strip. Anyway, we're up to chapter 20. They're in the house. It sounds like a nice house. And they've just dropped that bombshell of perhaps they won't actually be inviting all of Luke's workmates to a wedding because they're considering having a small wedding. But they say considering, they haven't actually discussed very much. We haven't got much of the discussion of what their plans are for a wedding. So, but I am 200 pages in, which is halfway through. And I'm loving it. Loving this. So yeah, 400. So yeah, I think it's time for a cup of tea and a wee snowball because they're delicious. So it's actually 10 o'clock now. I can't believe it's so late. But this is my snowball. It's not as fancy as my other snowball that I had a wee while ago because this one is like a mass-produced one. So it's a bit more crumbly and there's not as much cream in it. Like there's hardly any. It's like you can see it's kind of dry. There's not much jam. But there's a lot more sweetness. Anyway, it's not as fancy as my other snowballs from a few weeks ago. But I've got a cup of tea and I'm still reading this. I'm having a wee listen to the audiobook while I'll eat this. So I probably won't read. I don't want to get coconut all over the pages. But yeah, I can't believe it's 10. I don't know if I want to just keep reading or I'm going to have to go to bed and sleep. Because I'm like halfway through. I don't know. Probably having this will keep me up longer because it's sugar. So we'll see how long I could make it in this reading. Where am I anyway? I think I'm not quite at the 250 mark though. Not yet. So yeah. I'll have a wee go with this. So I've decamped upstairs. I'm at page 240, 241. And they're at the wedding of Alex and Miffy? And there's been a couple of instances when you can hear the voice of the author through Luke, and I'm like, this is Alexis Hall's voice, right? This is it. So especially this, but it's also Luke because obviously Luke is, it's who he is as a person, but here it's things like this. How is there so much of this? The God stuff. How could there be so much of this? I wouldn't have minded if I'd never seen the slightest shred of evidence Alex was even remotely religious. So all of this pomp and weirdly specific theology about the union between a man and his wife being in a very real sense the same as the union between Jesus and the church felt like empty ritual, except no, it was worse than that. Here in this cathedral, it felt like a ritual celebration of power and establishment and orthodoxy. I'd heard it said that the Church of England was the Tory party at prayer, but until I'd seen a wealthy nincompoop marrying an earl's daughter in front of an actual bishop, I hadn't quite realised how literal that could be. This paragraph could not have come at a more appropriate and apt time. Literally, yesterday, Sandy Toksvik, who is an amazing, she's an amazing person in general, but she's amazing in lots of different ways. But I've always admired her, and she's very, very intelligent and astute, and she's wonderful at presenting her ideas in the most humanist and accepting and loving way. And she wrote an open letter to is it the Archbishop of Canterbury? I don't know, some archbishop anyway, who is one of the heads of the Church of England, which is an Anglican church. So, like, I'm not interested, but still also Church of England, so also not interested. But what is important is the fact that they're having this big conference, this religious conference at the moment, and this archbishop decided to write an open letter to the conference and the people who were attending the conference. And it's all these different Anglican churches coming together, at least the heads of the Anglican churches coming together and talking about issues that affect and are impacting or could be impacted by the church. And there was another conference a few years ago, and in that conference they decided to acknowledge but also confirm that they were not going to acknowledge and recognise and therefore perform same-sex marriages. So they're still very much homophobic. So hey, if you grew up in the Anglican Church, all of this pomp and ceremony that they're talking about, you know, here, all of this that Luke is talking about, it's part of who you were indoctrinated into, that you thought you could be loved because, you know, for a lot of people, Christianity and religion is supposed to be about love. Well, it's not. It's about control. It's about a ritual celebration of power and establishment and orthodoxy. It's about the Church of England being the Tory party at prayer. It's so much about this. And the fact that he had decided to bring this up, you know, but the way that he worded it, he wouldn't say that there was, what did he say? There would be no penalties or kind of like slaps on the wrist and things like that to anyone who had actually performed a same-sex marriage ritual, because it's a schism. This is what's happening in the church just now. Half the people, well, more than half the people are saying gay marriage is not allowed. And there are many people who are saying this is outdated, it's shown to be inaccurate interpretation of scripture, and therefore it's just homophobia and bigotry rather than anything else. And Sandy Toksvik, who is herself a lesbian, she has a female partner, she wrote an open letter and pasted it onto Twitter. So I'll put a link down below to let you know. And it's a beautiful letter about how important it is to love and how love is supposed to be what the whole religious thing is about. And so yeah, this feels really apt, and this feels very much like, once again, I think there's been about 3 or 4, I should probably go back and read them, but there's been about 3 or 4 instances when you can hear the voice of someone who is very much commenting on the social structure of our world just now in the UK and how unequal and inequitable it is at the moment, and how awful it is that we have, you know, posh rich people who own lots of land and all, you know, have the unpoliticalness of the House of Lords. Like, all of these different comments are very much political. So this is, in a sense, it's like it's kind of like a party political broadcast for people to rise up. This is what it feels like. It feels like a manifesto in a sense. Probably not what you'd expect for a male romance, but I'm feeling very like this is lighting a fire in my belly as much as it is soothing my heart with the romance. Because oh my god, the scene I just read about them in the room on the rug in front of the fire, just it felt so lovely. And then the next page is, it's about, hey, maybe there's inequality in life, we should think about it. It's political, but wrapped up in a nice package. So I'm loving this. So yeah, I'm at page 240. I'm almost at the 250 mark. So I might check in with you again at the 300 page mark. Because I love this. I love this so much. I'll get ready for bed, so it might be a little bit subdued lighting and stuff. So I think I've decided that it's gonna be a late night or an early morning. I don't think I'll be able to stop reading this. We're at part 4. Oh dear, it says in loving memory and they haven't said anything else. Oh, which is probably just as well because I don't know what's coming next. Anyway, I'm at page 264. So we've gone past the 250 mark. But I'm not quite at the 300 mark. Oh my god. So they have just had their probably the worst meeting the in-laws, although he's already met the in-laws and he's already told them to go fuck themselves in the last book. But this is like meeting the worst in-laws and they are so homophobic and the things that they're saying and it's just like, of course Oliver feels internalized homophobia because he's had to put up with this shit all his life. And everything that they were saying, it was just like worst, the worst, the worst. But that was a brilliant mic drop moment. Oliver finally stood up for himself, said everything exactly as he wanted to, and told his dad to go fuck himself. I was like, yes, yes, good for you. I'm gonna have to put a little tag on this page as well because that was a good moment. Oh, but I don't know what's happening now. Oh no. Yeah, they sound absolutely horrendous. Horrendous people. There's definitely some issues, I think, like in the first book, they've got their issues to work through. They've both got issues, and it's funny how much even in that first book as well, Luke, who seems like a disaster monkey, is actually more emotionally because he's like has all of his emotions so close to the surface because he expresses them and lives them. He lives his emotions, whereas Oliver has always repressed so much and had to tamper down his own individual personality, identity. It's always much more at the surface for Luke. So when it came to like the end of the first book, you were like, actually Luke's not the one that has the major issues that needs to be dealt with. And probably, like, once again, I am asking all male robots characters to go see a therapist. Well, Oliver's seeing a therapist and he has been for the past 2 years, but he's dealing with his issues and yet he still has more deep-seated, deep-rooted issues than I think Luke does, even though Luke dealt with a lot of what he was going through, especially when it comes to his dad and how much of a narcissistic asshole he is. I think Oliver definitely has more fundamental issues to deal with a therapist. Luke could probably deal with going to one, he'd probably do better. But I'm so glad I got to part 4. I wonder how many parts there are. Is there going to be a part 5? Anyway, I am at page 265. I'm going to keep on going. We'll see. What did I say? The 300 mark? We'll see. Maybe the 3 or 350. Anyway, I'll check in with you when I read a bit more. So I've made it to 300, 301. And the funeral is not happened yet, but the death has, and it was who I suspected it would be, and it was exactly how I thought it would play out, to the worst possible way. So yeah, it's kind of a bit sad. There's definitely been a couple of interesting things. I just put a little note here because they were Luke was trying to make Oliver some vegan French toast, but he just said that he couldn't have it, because he didn't know that he'd actually made him vegan stuff. And he says, obviously I realised it's not vegan, it's full of cow juice and chicken boxes. And I just thought chicken boxes is a great way to say eggs. Yeah, it's after midnight, but I think I'm just gonna have to stay awake and try and read 100 pages, 106, something like that. And see. Or I might end up falling asleep and you might see me in the morning. We'll see how far I go. So it is the next day. It's probably about 12 hours since I finished reading the husband material, just because I think I finished it at like 3 in the morning and I was way too tired to talk. I was like, just stay awake, finish it. I've got some, like a cheese dip thing in the oven just now and I'm snacking on prawn crackers while I wait for that to cook. I thought I would just go through what I thought of Husband Material now that I've finished it. Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was good. It was good. Where did we leave off? I think it was like 300, wasn't it? So it was just before the funeral. And then I have to say that eulogy was just brilliant. The number of times he said, "Go fuck yourself." So Oliver's giving the eulogy and he's just like, he was a complicated man and I finally told him to go fuck himself. And it was just like, yay! And then the whole thing with his brother Christopher afterwards. And I was like, yes, you just go. And then the whole uncle thing. Wow, that was great. It was one speech only, one tiny speech. And it's like, nope. He said, nope. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Then the whole uncle here, it was at the end of this chapter. And it was kind of like, oh, I can see that now. From the first book, I was like, oh, he's just maybe he's divorced or maybe he is a widow or, something like that. That's the kind of vibe that you got from the uncle. But this vibe was completely different. So it was a different vibe altogether. And you're like, oh. And it was really touching and it was really sweet and it was really sad. And the whole thing of had it coming was great. And it was great to have this discussion in here of the different generations, because this is something that I feel like when I stumble across discussions online, there's like a massive disconnect and disrespect amongst generations. Like people who were gay and they're in their 60s and 70s and 80s, did they have an easy life? No, they did not. People who are in Generation X and so many of that generation died from AIDS because the governments just were not doing their job. And so, when you see Generation Z saying shit about older gay people, and it's just like, they really don't understand their history. It's like, it's a shame. It's a real sad one. So this was an emotional moment for me. And then of course we had the last one, which I didn't take, as you can see, I didn't take any notes. That was the last note I took. And I read the last few hundred pages, and it was the ending that I expected it to be. I'm not going to say what the ending was because that's maybe a bit too much of a spoiler. But let's just say it was 4 weddings and a funeral, and we knew it was, because right at the end, there was this really great Q&A with Alexis Hall about why they came back, why they were doing it, a point of view and stuff like that, different characters. And I love this. Husband Material followed an interesting structure. Did you have that in mind before you began, or did that develop as the story progressed? Nope. I decided going in I was going to blatantly and shamelessly rip off 4 weddings and a funeral, which is what I'm assuming interesting structure is a polite euphemism for. So I was like, good, great, I'm glad that's exactly the point I was making throughout. It is very 4 weddings and a funeral. The next one, though, is also something that I mentioned. Your novels often veer from hilarity to pointed social commentary. And that's what I was looking for. The idea that it's hilarity to pointed social commentary. So I'm glad that someone has articulated what I was trying desperately to, when it comes to Anna with one N. Do you have those issues? Or did they just pop up? And I thought that was a really great way to discuss that. That there is definitely interesting issues that needs to be brought up. Social commentary And I think this is what Alexis Hall has done quite well in this London Calling series so far. And the introduction of Tyler as well, right at the end. Tyler is a character that was introduced near the end of the book, but was only there for briefly, just briefly. So yeah, it was nice to read the comments at the end as well. And that was it. It was kind of like, it was a great wee ending. It was a great book. And it was quite a chunky boy. I'm very happy. It does feel lovely. I'm gonna have to try and get a physical copy of the first one, because I do think that it's something I would want to have looking nice on my shelves. And they do mention at the end that there is going to be more books in the London Calling series. One for Tyler and one for Jonathan. I think that's what they said at the end. That there was going to be more here. What are you allowed to tell us about any more books in this world? So, side characters. Jonathan, who was someone that they met at the second wedding, Miles and Jojo, who I was like, Jonathan, who the hell is Jonathan? I had to actually go back and find. I was like, okay. And Tyler, who was introduced at the very last little section of the book. And so I was like, oh, that sounds great, that's interesting. And so I was quite happy and content with the way that it ended. It was kind of what I had expected from the very beginning, which I know is what everyone always says. But I really did, when I was like, okay, 4 weddings and a funeral, there's that, okay, this is how it might go. That's how it might go in my head. But also I got an email this morning. So when I woke up and I was like, no, I don't have any more husband material to read, I had an email, and it was an email from like the PR people for Alexis Hall. So if you had pre-ordered husband material and you clicked on a link on Alexis Hall's Instagram, it would take you through to like a form, and you just had to put in your details, like your email address and your name and your pre-order number for husband material, and they would send you a sort of like the first chapter of the next book, which I'd kind of forgotten about, and then I got it. So here it is. I just opened it on my iPad. So they gave you a little like reminder of, hey, do you remember who Jonathan was? This is Jonathan. And then it gave you the little information about who they were and a bit of extra information. And then the working title, 10 Things That Never Happened, because it's supposed to be something to do with amnesia. So and then a little bit of extra, a bit of author's note. And it was losing my job and losing my memory. Which sounds great. Sounds fantastic. So I had a wee read of that. It was 18 pages. But obviously the first few pages were this. I am now utterly enamored with this. I was like, oh, okay, I'll give it a wee go. It introduced another character. It's from their perspective, and then Jonathan's the other person in this story. And oh my god, I just got completely caught up by the end of this 18-page little extra, first chapter. I was like, damn it. So we have to wait until, I think it's October 2023. So 10 Things That Never Happened. Is it 10 Things That... 10 Things That Never Happened will go down on my most anticipated for 2023, and it'll get put in October's little month. I'm like, damn it. So now I have to wait until October for that one, which is fine. But I will look forward to it a lot, because I think I'm going to enjoy it. It's going to be silly, and just like husband material, I think it'll be a good fun time. So yeah, I'm going to get my cheesy dip and a wee bit of like a chilled beer or something, and have something to eat. So I got my cheese out of here. Hopefully it's quite nice. It's got a sort of cider thing in it, so let's give it a wee try. Oh, that is nice. That is lovely. So I'm going to enjoy my dinner. I hope you enjoyed this little spoiler-filled reading vlog of husband material. And of course, I'm 365, 801, and I make videos about male romance, BL manga, yaoi, all that good thing, and a lot of food. Always food. I'm going to enjoy my Asahi beer and my cheese sort of dip. Hope you have a great time. Thanks for watching to the end. Take care. Bye.